Hi, my name is Israel Martinez. Welcome back to my podcast, Fo-Sci Rant. This is my third podcast episode talking about one of the assignments from my forensics class. Kind of giving you guys a summary on one of the modules that we've covered as of late, as before the last podcast episode. I am also going to be talking about a current event that is happening right now in the world, as well as a crime that is related to the assignment that I chose for this podcast. So, to get started, I'm going to be talking about the assignments in Module 5, but specifically Assignment 10. So, in this assignment, we were asked to examine and analyze a ransom letter left behind. We were then asked to examine 5 other letters from 5 different suspects and compare them to the ransom note and see which one matched the ransom note. Now, I already know that everybody has a specific handwriting to them, and I also know that other people could copy others' handwriting, but what I didn't know was exactly how criminal investigators would go on about this, like analyzing them and comparing them. So when I did this assignment, I got to experience firsthand how a criminal investigator would go on about using a person's handwriting as evidence, right? At first, I had a little bit of a struggle figuring out how to detail and examine the ransom note and then compare it to the evidence. But then when I decided to start, I decided to start by measuring the gaps between words, the height of the words, the width of the words. I then also measured the slant of the words. So everybody kind of has their own slant to their way of writing, right? So some people would have a slant to the right, some would have them to the left, or some words would be just straight, like up and down. They would have no slant. But even the people who would have slants to the right, they slant a specific degree to their handwriting, right? So what I measured was the degree of the slant, not necessarily like I didn't just put a line and put like I put the degree of the slant, and I did this by on my iPad when I was examining the notes. It comes with a ruler that tells me the degree, so that's kind of more or less what I used. I also examined the ransom note for any flourished or embellishments, as well as the suspect handwriting. So what I mean by flourished or embellishments, I mean like anything that really sticks out kind of out of the norm, to I guess your average handwriting. So some people have like they do very like I guess unique things in their handwriting, meaning some people would over exaggerate the length of their F's, or like the tails on the G's, or their Q's, or they would just like over exaggerate like how big the first letter of the word is compared to the rest of the letters, something like that. Excuse me. So what I did, I circled all the flourished or embellishments in the letters, right? Now, in order to keep track of every detail, because it was kind of a few, I color coded each element that I measured. Element meaning, again, like I said before, like the flourished or embellishment, that was one color. The degree of the slants, that was also a different color. Like I said before, like I drew a line, but I put the degree, and that in itself was a different color. The gaps between the words was a different color. The height of the words was a different color. What I mean by the height of the words was more like I kind of put like lines on the top of the word and at the bottom of the word, but like of the sentence. I mean, sorry, not the word. And that's kind of how I measured each sentence, I guess you would say. That's how I measure the height. Sorry. So, and also the width of the words were different. They were a different color. Another thing would be. Oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So I color coded each element. I put a little key on the bottom right with the different types of colors that I use and what color I use for what. So then, going back to the assignment, right? I'll put up my example of the word. So on in the you'll see more or less my assignment, right? You'll see the different colors that I used. Like for instance, I used pink for the flourished and embellishments. So as you can see for the pink, Some of them I didn't circle anything because some of them didn't have a specific flourish or embellishments in their words. I did the degrees in yellow. I did the word length in blue. I did the word height in green. So again, like I said earlier, like the lines of the sentences. And I did the spacing between the words in red. Now, to how I went on about this after I labeled everything right, because it's not just about labeling. I had to compare them. So I went first to suspect one, and then I would see that in suspect one, but straight off the bat, without even putting any measurements, I could already tell that it wasn't going to be a suspect one, just because the wording was completely different. In the ransom letter, there was a bit of a slant, and in suspect one and three and four, actually 1, 3, and 4, they didn't have any slant to them. They were just straight, a 90-degree angle, no slant. So it was just up and down. Yeah. So I could already tell that suspect 1, 3, and 4 weren't gonna be it because of the slant, but not just because of the slant. Also, the fonts of the words, they were very different. The main ones I was mostly looking to examine would be suspects 2 and 5. Those were the ones that kind of like, oh, they're very similar to the ransom letter. So I had to kind of look more into the specific details of each handwriting, right? And that's where I compared the spacing between the words, the length of the words, and actually what helped me a lot determining who was that, I guess, the criminal in this case, which, spoiler alert, I think it was suspect 5. Just because suspect 2, it had some very unique, like I said earlier, flourished or embellishments. Like the F's, they're very high up compared to the words. The words were more squished together. There was not as much spacing, and I saw that with the measurements, of course. And suspects 5 did match more the degree of the slant. It matched the word spacing. It matched just everything. So suspect 5 seemed to be the one who left the ransom letter behind, right? So I also found that very interesting in this assignment because I guess I never really thought about how everybody's handwriting is very unique to them. Like I knew everybody's handwriting was very different, but it being used in a criminal case in a criminal environment, it really like I guess made me realize how different everybody's handwriting is, and how people can't tell when it's your handwriting, because you could like I said before, like you could measure maybe past stuff you've written before in the past, and people compare it to something present, and it could like lead past evidence back to current evidence, which I think is really crazy. That actually brings me to sorry, to the criminal case I wanted to talk about that is related to this assignment, right? Um, like but before I get ahead of myself, I wanted to say that this type of evidence examination, I guess you could call, is called handwriting analysis, which I didn't know before the assignment, which is also kind of interesting. And this type of evidence analysis, I guess, has been used to solve some crimes that involve the type of note or letter left behind or forged by a criminal. Like for instance, talk about the case. Handwriting analysis played a key role in arresting juror. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Juror Bagenstos, yeah. He was accused of killing his wife, Marianne Bagenstos, in their home nearly 40 years ago. He was charged with homicide December 22nd and was sent to Lancaster County Prison. So this case was solved actually because Mr. Benjamin's handwriting sample, there were some handwriting samples that he had left behind, right? And he actually wrote a note in the house that he claimed his wife wrote, right? So he said that the note Marianne left, he said in the note, it said that his wife, Marianne had left the house to run an errand, and she would return shortly. But obviously, she never returned because he killed her. And to, like, I guess deflect any suspicion that he had killed his wife, he wrote the note, and then he claimed that she wrote it. He even told the police several days after her disappearance that she had wrote this note saying that she went to a nearby Turkey Hill convenience store, but because no employees saw her there, or utility workers along the road said, and then utility workers along the road said that she would have walked, but didn't see her there. So it was very suspicious, and it wasn't until later where they found past writings of Mr. Bagenstow's stuff that he left behind, and compared it to the ransom note, they were actually able to lead the murder back to him, because he was the one who essentially wrote those letters, right? Now, kind of for my favorite part of this podcast, I guess I would say, I'm going to talk about a current event that's currently happening. And a current event right now, like really recent, that I feel isn't really talked about a lot is Hurricane Raphael, right? Now I know about the comments made by people about this hurricane in the States, Florida being the most popular, right? That they want him, how should I word this? I guess pay them a visit. But I'm not going to get that into the specifics right now. But Hurricane Raphael is a hurricane that is very recent. This event I'm talking about actually is from a news source that published this yesterday, on November 8th, USA Today. So this hurricane had arrived at Cuba and caused several power outages. And when it hit Cuba, the winds were up to 115 miles per hour. Everything seems to be okay right now, but this is happening right now, and the hurricane right now, according to USA Today, is back down to a Category 2 storm, so it's not as bad anymore. But it is getting higher, and it is en route to Florida. Yet again, a second hurricane going towards Florida, I know. But I find it really interesting how nobody's really talking about this. But it is something that's going on right now, and it already hit Cuba, and it causes power outages already there. So yeah, and this was used by USA Today. This is what they published on their site. And that's gonna, I guess, sum up my podcast for today. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a great day.